Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the second or third in a series of conversations that I'm having with my friend Sean Fallon.
Hello.
Let's talk about growing up with Star Wars right now.
Okay.
I grew up with it.
Yeah.
Dad plonked me down in front of the TV and some VHS tapes and said, watch these.
Yep.
And I did. And that's it. That's sort of that point. Star Wars forever now.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Oh, I don't even remember. It's one of those things like there's never been a point where I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You know, there's never been a point where like my first ever memory is Christmas 1986 or 87. So I was like 3 years old and coming downstairs and my dad is sat in the living room just covered in Return of the Jedi toys. And it was like all the, the old figures and the plastic packs and the things. And it was just, they just got me all of them.
Oh, wow.
And that was, that was just amazing. I remember like cracking them all open and I had those toys. Well, it's mad. I had those toys forever, and they'd always sort of like make reappearances as I was growing up. And then they all ended up in the attic in the loft in my house. And my nephew now, who's 5 or 6, is now just nuts for Star Wars. So my mum sent me a photo of them in England, and he's playing with those exact same toys.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's just completely made up with them. And he's got like the X-Wing is just like all the stickers have come off, it's completely faded, it's sun bleached and all that. But he loved it. Because it's the one where you press R2's head and the S-foils open up.
That's nuts.
So he was nuts for that, and it's cool. It's just a nice circular thing if it all just came back around, like so. So it's one of them. There's never. It's interesting because I remember saying it to someone that I've never not known that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Yeah.
There's never been a point in my life where I watched that for the first time and was like, that was it. Like whenever it was I watched that, I have no recollection of it. So it's just always been. It's simply a constant.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that's probably the truth for a lot of people, even people that didn't grow up with the films. Like it's permeated popular culture and other films and TV shows, comedians. Like I'm amazed whether it's a generational thing, but just how frequently there are Star Wars jokes in comedy specials on Netflix.
Yeah.
Is it just the comedians that I'm watching? But like I don't know, but we just pick them and go, oh yeah, I think that person's funny. They seem funny. The trailer seems funny.
Yeah.
There's a Star Wars reference. There's a Star Wars joke. So
I don't think you could. I remember doing a thing. I used to write for this website called Audiences Everywhere, and one of the things we did once was we used to, on Star Wars Day, I'd write like 3 or 4 articles because I was always nuts for it. And I remember one of the things I pitched was best Star Wars references in TV shows.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, I'll get down to this. This is going to take loads of research. And I was just spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Like in the end, I had to go on Twitter and just say to people, like, what are your favorites? Because there's too many. Yeah. Like The Simpsons has at least 100 really good ones, And in the end, it was like, there's a really good X-Files one, the good 30 Rock, and this, and then just found like more niche ones. But yeah, I think probably if you sat down and watched every TV series ever made, there'd be one Star Wars reference at some point in some moment.
Absolutely.
It's like you say, it's become such a cultural thing. I'm even like, we're in this room now, and there's a poster for Life Aquatic, the Wes Anderson film. And I know for a fact in that film, there's, I think when the boat breaks down, the sound effect is the Millennium Falcon hyperdrive not working.
Huh.
Just off the top of my head, that's one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's just like, and that's just a little deep cut reference, and right there.
Yeah,
it's just so cultural that it's hard to think. I remember watching them at uni with my girlfriend at the time, and she'd never seen them. And when Vader said to Luke, I'm your father, she gasped. She didn't know it.
Wow.
I was like, how do you not know that? And she was like, oh my God. And she said, all I've seen is like that stupid one with the guy with the tongue and the little kid. She said, wait, so is that little kid that guy? Like, yeah, love.
Wow.
You can't, that's too much of a bubble to be in.
Yeah.
Like, my wife now, who, like, grew up in a small farming town and, like, her movie knowledge is quite limited, she knew all that.
Yeah.
Because she, I think maybe because she had brothers who watched it or something like that, but, this girl from this like, rich girl who I was the bit of rough of in university, and she was like, oh, Darth Vader's Luke's father? Who'd have thunk it? Everyone. Every single human being on the planet.
So I've got a friend went out to dinner a couple nights ago, and we were catching up. What have I been up to? And I told her about the channel. I said to her, I go, it just occurred to me, you haven't seen any Star Wars, have you?
Right.
And she didn't say it when we were talking about the channel, but I thought I remembered that she hadn't seen any.
Yeah.
And, same age as me. And I was like, okay, is that true? And she goes, yeah, you're remembering correctly. I'm not being your guinea pig. And I was like,
she was onto you like that.
Yeah, we've known each other a while. But she also then said something, and I found this really interesting. So she's never seen them.
Yeah.
She goes, it's just space, And I was like, it's not just space.
Yeah.
But do you know it's not just space unless you've seen them? Well, you probably wouldn't. So at face value, does Star Wars present differently from marketing perspective to what it actually is?
Yeah.
Because if I had to boil this down, I'd say it's a political drama in a lot of respects. There's war, there's fighting and this sort of stuff, but okay, especially the prequels. The essence of the prequels is political drama. That's why a lot of people said that they thought it was boring.
They do gradually become more of a family thing, but I think if you just watch New Hope by itself, it's a Second World War movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It's freeing someone from a prison camp, and it's the dogfight and all that, and it's I think Lucas has always been very good in that sense. If he doesn't, he's not coy about his influences, I guess.
No.
So straight away with Star Wars, he's like, it's Kurosawa, it's
Second World War
movies,
Vietnam War.
I mean, I read something very interesting recently where it was the idea that, obviously the way we look at Star Wars is very different from what he had in his head, because he's like, oh no, it's a Vietnam movie because the rebels are the Viet Cong and the Empire is America.
Yeah.
So I believe me and you, I don't think me and you were talking about this, but maybe I saw you talking about this, about the idea of a Star Wars film being subversive.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you get to subversive, the idea that, because I think the thing that people always fall on is like, oh no, Return of the Jedi is the Vietnam one because the Ewoks, the Viet Cong, and the Empire.
Well, it's an easy analogy, right?
Yeah, because it's a small guerrilla force beating. It's like, no, that's the whole thing's been that.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other episode of this to go into.
Absolutely.
But I think it's more than, because I never, to go on a complete tangent when you say that about it's just space, that was always why I could never really get into Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Star Trek movie, I think Wrath of Khan is one of the best movies ever made, sci-fi.
Yeah.
But that is a submarine movie.
Yeah.
It's a submarine war movie. Yeah. I went to see that in the cinema actually quite recently I won a competition and went to go see it, and there was a science lecturer, a science lecturer who came on and did a Q&A at the end. And I took one of my friends to go see it who had not seen a single Star Trek movie, but I was like, come on, let's go have a pint and go watch it or whatever. And he loved it. Yeah. And when we were driving home, he was like, yeah, so that was cool. It's at the end, it's a submarine movie. And that was what makes it good. Whereas the Star Trek movies that are very much about diplomacy and space travel, I'm like, snooze. I could never watch the TV shows because I'm like, I don't care about this. This doesn't... This idea of being an ambassador or a diplomat.
Intergalactic diplomats and explorers.
Yeah, I get it. I get the appeal of it, but
there are Star Trek fans watching this right now. They're
pulling. So sorry.
Put your knives away.
There's bits I like.
Put your phasers away.
Like I say, Wrath of Khan. I would put it right up there. I think it is a perfect bit of sci-fi. Yeah, it's great. But again, to go back to your thing about it being just space, that film I think succeeds because it's not space.
Yes.
It's people, and it's conflict, and it's war, and it's that interesting idea of you've got Kirk and Khan, who are these nemesis, and they never meet in the film. They never meet face to face. And you've just got this idea of just these tacticians trying to outdo each other. And it's great.
Yeah.
And the thing with Star Wars is obviously those first three are all about the machinations of an evil man and the rise of fascism in space.
Lucas often said that it was about Richard Nixon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was in the James Cameron story of science fiction. There's a couple of snippets that have made it onto the web. And
that's why I saw that Vietnam thing.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
It's interesting when people say, Star Wars isn't political, or it shouldn't be political. It should be escapism. It's like there's two sides to escapism. You know, like it depends on what you take into it. And certainly, like what Lucas poured into it was not pure escapism. These were political and life lessons that he was infusing into a young adult drama, basically.
He's making a movie about war in the 70s.
Yeah, you know, absolutely.
Anything that you watch from that period is so drenched in that sort of like post-Watergate, post-Nixon, post-Vietnam thing. Yeah. It's incredible. Like if you do sit and just watch movies from that time, they're so bleak and so good.
Oh, yeah.
Godfather, Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
All President's Men. All those movies are just incredible. Yeah. And I think people do sort of go like, oh, Star Wars.
Yeah, but
people flying around. It's, you know,
he took
it's
that
wizards.
Seriousness and he threw space on it.
It's hard, I think, to classify the newer movie, especially 7 and 8, in terms of like where they would sit in that, because they are sort of like, obviously, one is a big love letter to nostalgia, or it is a big nostalgic love letter, and Force Awakens is that. And then Last Jedi is very much a thing about the dangers of nostalgia. Yeah. So you've got these two movies in opposition to each other that sort of work together. Yeah. But sort of adamantly. And it's a bit of a weird... I think we're going to have to wait till that trilogy's finished and then take a step back and be like, okay, that's what it's about.
I often say that to people, like, there have been obviously a number of people that haven't quite gravitated to Episode 8, and that's fine. Yeah. There were people that didn't like The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Also fine. Yeah. Can guarantee you most of those people, in hindsight, love The Empire Strikes Back. That may happen with The Last Jedi. We don't know. Yeah. But yeah, you can't... I don't think you can judge a trilogy on its middle part. Mm-hmm. I think the middle part ends up potentially being the strongest in most trilogies. Yeah. Like, at least it's got the potential... Just by the way trilogies tend to work, you know, where they start off in sort of this positive kind of, you know, sort of jubilant kind of place by the end of it, you know, there's triumph. It usually goes triumph, disaster, back to triumph in some way. So you can oftentimes, I think, judge a trilogy by that middle part, but it's not till you get the closure that you can actually see that.
I know Josh Whedon came out about this and he said he did that. Something he doesn't like about trilogies is that the second part is a cheat because you don't have to finish it. Yeah. So he was like, no. When he did Age of Ultron, he was like, no. This is not going to be an Empire Strikes Back. It's going to have a beginning, middle, and end. Yep. Whereas, like, if you do look at some of the great trilogies, or even middling trilogies that have good second parts, obviously Godfather 2 and the big monster like Winter Soldier, like the Captain America, that is the strongest of those three movies. Absolutely. Though, not to go on a whole Marvel thing, but it's hard to classify that as a trilogy because then you need Age of Ultron. Blah, blah, blah. But that movie by itself, it can stay open-ended at the end and so on. And I mean that's the thing with Last Jedi. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I liked Attack of the Clones and hated Revenge of the Sith, and now my opinion's completely switched because I've had time to take a look back. And I think when we talk about Watch Order, we'll talk about the prequels and stuff like that. But I think it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they round this trilogy out and where they end up sitting on this nostalgia thing. Yeah. Because nostalgia is such a fashionable thing at the moment. It's so in. Yeah. Because, well, why is it ever in? Because everyone's terrified of the present and want the good old days, or people want familiarity, or studios want familiarity, and people are like, well,
it's safe, it's bankable. That's it. You know, populism is a thing. Yeah. And I mean, hell, like populism in politics, we know that's happening right now. Yeah. You know, so why not? Why would other parts of our collective reality be any different? You know, film, television, people want safe and familiar. Yeah. In some respects. Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that now we're getting that trend of like stuff that comes back, but the narrative of the thing that comes back is against that nostalgia. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you watched Twin Peaks, like the new Twin Peaks.
I haven't. No.
It was incredible because it was obviously we were never going to get Twin Peaks back. No. Now, that was something that was just, it was coded. It was just like, no, you never get Twin Peaks back. That's always going to be a what if, and if it does come back, some asshole's gonna make it. Yeah. And it was like, no, it came back, and it was 18 hours long, and David Lynch wrote it with Mark Frost, and all the cast came back. And that summer when that was on, for that 16 or 18 weeks or how long it was, that was a gift.
Yeah.
And that was the most incredible thing. But that whole show was all about the dangers of nostalgia.
Yeah.
It was all about the dangers of living in the past. And it was very much this thing of like, yes, we're going to give you this thing that you've been waiting for 27 years, but it's going to be all about how you shouldn't have spent that 27 years trying to recapture the past.
Yeah, interesting.
And it was fascinating because it was perfect. I mean, that's been a thing that I've seen a lot of essays about that, comparing The Last Jedi and Twin Peaks.
Interesting.
In this interesting idea of like this anti-nostalgia and how it works. So it's interesting. It's kind of a weird topic as we move. I don't know if this is a modern condition where we get into a trend, then we get into the anti-trend very quickly.
Yeah.
We got into nostalgia, now we're out in the anti-nostalgia, and then at what point do we go into anti-nostalgia and come back around again?
The other day I was going to watch one. I was like, I'm going to watch a film, don't know which one.
Roll the dice.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi. I don't like Return of the Jedi very much anymore.
Same.
I'm like, child me loved it.
Yeah.
The prequels are more adult than this film is now. In so many respects. It's got some real high drama moments.
Yeah. Oh, when it's good.
When it's good,
great.
it's good. But most of it is not.
That was a tough one. I showed that to before we went to see Force Awakens. My wife said to me, because I was like, oh, do you want a ticket? Do you want to come with? It's going to be pretty cool. And she's like, yeah, why not? But I need to see a Star Wars film first.
Yeah.
So just pick one, and I'll just watch it, and then I can work it out.
Yeah.
So we watched Empire, and she really enjoyed it, and she was really interested in the Luke Vader stuff.
Yeah.
So the next night, like, we're making dinner, and she said to me, okay, so what happens next? And I was like, oh yeah, so Luke goes to Vader, and I was telling the whole thing, like, oh, and then, then they're fighting, and cuts off his hand, and then he says to the Emperor, no, you failed, and And I'm like cooking dinner, just like, practically in tears, like, recounting Return of the Jedi. And then I was like, and Vader's there, and they take the mask off, and he's like, tell your sister you were right. And my wife was like, I need to see that.
Yeah.
So we sat down and watched it, watching Jabba's Palace. She's like, skip this.
Yeah.
Skip Jabba's Palace, watched a bit more.
Yeah.
Skip the Ewoks. She was like, no, if it's not Luke and Vader or that hot black dude, I don't care. Like, okay. So that was it. We pretty much watched the whole film was like 45 minutes long because she was like, I don't care about puppets. I don't care about teddy bears.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I don't know why I should care. Just give me, this is the stuff I like.
Yeah.
So that's what I want.
Yeah.
And when she'd sort of put that in my head, so, a year or 2 years later, I'm rewatching it for Last Jedi. And I was sort of like watching it and I was sort of reading a book at the same time. I was like, yeah. And Return of the Jedi used to be my favourite.
Yeah.
And I still think there's great stuff in it. I still think the ending is great. I still think that the three stories at the same time.
Yep.
I think all the Lando stuff's great. I think there's the whole Han will have that shield down, got to give him more time. I think that's wonderful. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, the Vader Luke stuff at the end of Return of the Jedi with the Emperor it's the best.
Let's strip this back then. We take someone that is not a fan and we put them in front of the films.
Right.
How would you do it?
How would I do it? I would... Let me have a think about this.
Well, actually, while you're thinking about it, so you keep thinking about it. So there's the three most popular orders.
Oh yes, no, please, yeah.
Canon order.
Yeah, so
that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And I guess whether you would want to wedge Solo and Rogue One in there now, that's something else that we can consider.
Yeah.
You've got the release order, which would be, Rogue One and Solo wherever, but you watch them in the order of their year of release.
Yeah.
Or you've got the Machete Order, which, the original Machete Order was before the new films came out. They came with that. So it's basically 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, and no episode 1.
No episode 1. So one of the weird ways... So... Two things about this. I hate it for the fact that they dump out episode 1. Yeah. Because it feels really petty.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like, why bother? If you're gonna do the prequels, just do them.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is a really interesting way that they do it, and I think this sounds better on paper than it probably works as a film, is that you watch 4 and 5. But when you're watching 5, towards the end, once Luke's been rescued in the Millennium Falcon and they're flying away, Vader looks out of the window and there's like a long shot of him just staring up.
Yeah.
That's when you watch the prequels, as though it's Vader having a flashback to his how he became Vader.
Yeah.
Then you continue to watch 5 and then 6. I think the thing I don't like about that is, I don't like the fact that they dump out 1.
Yeah,
I just think it's petty.
Yeah.
And I think if you were going to go in completely blind with nothing, you start at New Hope.
Yep.
And I think you go 4, 5.
Would you go? Okay, so one of the other members in our Melbourne group, Luke, he got his sister to watch, and I think he started with Rogue One.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I thought that too. When he brought that up, I thought, you know what, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you start with something that is newer, a bit more actiony, a little less kind of takes a little less
tied to the whole thing. There's no Jedis. It's very much a sense of like, well, if you like this, there's a little bit of the Force and stuff like that, but it's more of an abstract concept. If you like this, you're gonna like what comes next. Say you watch Solo first.
Yep.
So you say, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna start. I'm gonna watch Solo, then I'm gonna watch Rogue One, then I'm gonna watch New Hope.
Yeah.
Well, by the time you watch New Hope and Han Solo comes in, you're like, yeah, I got this guy locked.
Yeah.
I know who this is.
Yeah.
I'd be intrigued to actually sit down and watch Rogue One now with that mindset and think, okay, well, how is Darth Vader introduced?
Yeah.
How is the Emperor mentioned?
I don't think the Emperor is mentioned in Rogue One.
No, maybe not. Or maybe if he is, it wouldn't matter because he just like the same way he's mentioned in New Hope.
Yeah.
You're like, oh well,
The
I don't need a whole.
the last remnants of the old Republic.
That's it.
And that's it.
You're like, okay, so there's some big
There's
dude.
an emperor.
There's an empire.
Yep.
So that stands to reason there's an emperor.
Yep.
And we'll come to meet him later,
Yep.
I assume.
Vader's a looming figure, but he doesn't really do much in Episode 4.
No.
So you see if he comes in as meeting Krennic.
Yep.
It's like, oh, there's this guy with like this.
He can crush it. Like,
Whoa,
what's that about?
What's that all about? Yeah, so there's mystery there. He reappears later on. It's like, whoa, holy crap!
This
guy's
guy's
bad. One of the things I guess that people have said about watching in canon order is that you spoil the Darth Vader reveal.
And the Leia reveal is the sister?
Yeah. You only find that out in Episode 6 because that's when they decided, I think, to do that.
Yeah.
But so you spoil those two things.
You spoil the Yoda reveal. The confusing thing, mostly, I guess, with watching it starting with 1, is the continuity errors. That Rogue One thing, I think, is genius. If you go Rogue One to the Jedi and then back to the start, I don't think those continuity errors hurt as much because you're more sort of like, well, I've seen all that really good stuff, and now I'm sort of in a bit of the messy period, and then we'll come back around. Yeah. And then I think you can chuck Solo in anywhere. Well, you know what? You watch up to Episode 3, then you watch Solo. Yeah. Then you go 7, 8. Yeah. Just throw Solo in there, because that's sort of where it fits, I think.
So the Solo one's interesting. I think that I would watch Solo, Rogue One, then the original trilogy.
You'd start with Solo.
I'd start with Solo. So as a rounded film, I think its pacing's probably the best of the. The pacing, I think, is the best of some of the more recent films, even some of the older films. There's not really any part that drags out.
No, I mean, Rogue One, the first hour is...
It's hard. It's a bit tenuous. Yeah. You know, like, I remember watching it going, oh, geez, it's really kind of dragging in that middle section. Yeah. Like, ugh. But it pays off at the end.
Yeah, I mean, once it gets to the firework factory, it's all good.
So, Solo, on the other hand, is just this really solid 3-act kind of structure. Yeah. It's good because you don't have to know anything about any of the main characters, and like you learn this is Han Solo.
Everyone meets everyone.
You only get this little taste of what the Empire is. So you get the Empire taster, then you go into the next course, which is Rogue One, and that's more Empire. It's like, oh, this Empire thing's actually it's a bad thing.
And this rebellion that Enfys Nest is messing around with, that's going to... that's picking up steam.
That's now become something bigger. Then you go into the original trilogy, and so you've got familiarity with Solo before anything else, which then means you get into Empire. The relationship feels more important.
With him and Lando.
Yeah, with him and Lando. Yeah. Even little things going into then Return of the Jedi, like when finally at the end, Chewie and Lando meet and see each other again in the Ewok village, and they hug. There's gravity to that because of this history that now we've got.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really good.
So I reckon I'd go Solo, Rogue One, original trilogy.
Yeah.
And then this is where I fall apart. I'm like, you could just go straight into the sequel trilogy, but Episode 8 references
Darth Sidious.
Yeah. Do you go Solo, Rogue One, original trilogy, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy?
I think so, yes. So I think that's a great order.
Okay, so let's close this off. Cool. So we're going to go Solo.
Yes.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Original trilogy.
Yep.
Prequel trilogy.
With qualifier.
Sequels.
Yep. Holiday special.
Oh, God. No.
I think you have to watch the holiday special before and after each one. Through the whole thing.
Oh, God, no.
Just constantly.
All right, that's a good way to make everyone hate Star Wars, I think, probably forever.